Welcome to today's episode of Lessons in Deeper Wisdom.
Deeper wisdom.
Dum, 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 dum. So, today I want to welcome you to the Twilight Zone. Okay, no, not really. We're not going to be in the Twilight Zone, but we are. What time zone are we in?
That's always the question. I mean, I guess, I don't know, Eastern Seaboard. I guess we're Eastern in Michigan.
Yeah, we're Eastern time here, allegedly, according to
some guy.
Yeah, whoever he is.
Some guy who just wrote some stuff down. Is like, yeah, this sounds good.
But I do know the time is now.
The time is to the time now, though.
It was.
It was a minute ago.
It was.
Okay, so what are we talking about? You're making all these allusions to time. What are we talking about today?
Like in the future or like currently?
You know what? Will you tell me what we're talking about?
Oh, we're talking about time and time travel.
Oh, we want to get wild with it.
Yeah, we're talking about time and time travel today. Okay. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
You want a flux capacitor this thing?
Yes, I do. All up in the DeLorean. I'm in the driver's seat of the DeLorean right now.
I got you. All right, Doc.
I'm ready to go with this. I'm excited about time and time travel.
I am fascinated by it as well. I have some interesting ideas about it that don't really fit with most people's perception of time, but I think of it differently than others. But
I can't wait to hear it. I want to hear it because I feel like we all perceive time differently, yet we are told to perceive time in a specific way.
Well, you can't have order unless everybody's on the same time. So, that's the daylight savings time. You fall forward and spring back or whatever.
That's messy.
Fall back and spring forward or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really just a means to control society and keep everybody on the same schedule. So you know when to be to work.
That C word. Sick of that C word.
Oh, okay. Well, how about organize? Is organize a better word?
It's a better word. It doesn't make me feel good.
It's not supposed to.
It's one of the words that feels like
It feels like a euphemism for control.
Yeah,
exactly.
It is. It's just like you know what? You're saying the same thing, but that's a little softer. Okay.
Right. It's corporate speak for control.
Yeah.
So we're gonna organize and we're gonna synchronize and get our synergy all in the same direction. We're going to synergize our department, a.k.a. we're firing a whole bunch of people.
Yep, I'm taking a sick day already. Like right now, I need the time.
Exactly. But no, time travel is fascinating. I love time travel movies. I love the concept of time travel and the overall idea of time. Like I said, my concept of time is different than most. Most people think of it in a very linear sort of way, but you're young. I keep forgetting how young you are. Do you ever watch Deep Space Nine?
I don't think so.
Okay, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Great show. If you haven't watched it, you really need to watch all 7 seasons of it. It's the best Star Trek show, period. I don't care what anybody says. Next Generation was good. Deep Space Nine was better. But anyway, fight me on that. But yeah, so Deep Space Nine, in Deep Space Nine, they find a wormhole from the Alpha Quadrant to the Gamma Quadrant. And in the wormhole, they find these aliens that live in the wormhole. And what they find out is that these aliens do not live a linear time. They live all of time all at once. So they don't understand linear time. Like, domino 1 falls and then 2 and 3 and 4. They see all the dominoes fall. Whenever they fell, they see them all. So it's like he was trying to explain to them what linear time was. And they were just they were very confused by it at first. And so he had to teach them what it meant to, go from one point to another. And they were like, "Oh, this is that linear thing you keep talking about." And
yeah,
and that's how we live.
I at times feel like that alien who's in the wormhole, who has to succumb to the linear feel of time, and it's very frustrating. So I understand the idea of them being like, oh yeah, that linear thing, because they have to come down to be in that mindset. They're that's beyond that. Like, what do you mean linear? It's all happening at the same time. We're out outside of space. You don't understand that you're outside of space, and that's menial. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's
what we're taught, and that's how we're supposed to live. But for the record, time is not linear. Time is always.
You could have stopped. Time is
exactly.
It's okay.
So and that sort of thing, but it only, we can only perceive it that way in higher dimensions. So if you were, from our perspective, it seems like time moves in a linear fashion, but that's a matter of perspective. If you are moving faster than the speed of light, you'll see time move in a very different way. Everything will seem to stand still in comparison to your movement. So, I mean, really, if you understand what time really is, all it is the perception of the individual moving through space.
Yes. And that almost kind of answers what I was going to lead into next. And it's because for me, it's more a matter of, okay, when you say time and time travel, right? Especially with time travel, I personally felt like we time travel all the time.
Well,
in a way, right? But it depends on, to me, what are you saying when we say time travel? What is traveling through this time? Because
I get what you're saying.
Exactly are we saying is traveling through this time?
Well,
is it okay? I'll let you before.
Okay, so if you're saying time, then you're talking about the movement of matter through space. That is how we perceive time, either our movement or the movement of other objects through space. That's how we categorize time. If you are the thing that you're looking at, then you're in time. So you're subject to time. What actually is above time is the spiritual essence or the energetic matrix that is what we really are. That's what we call our higher selves, our spirit being, whatever we call it. That higher self does not exist within the time stream. It doesn't exist as a material thing, so therefore it's not bound by material time. So when you get deja vu, or you get precognitive dreams or precognitive visions or whatnot that happen, and we've all had them, where you see something before it happens, or you know something before it happens, where the phone rings and you know who's on the phone before you ever answer it. Those types of things come from that higher self, which is above, which outside the timeline, therefore it can perceive past, present, and future all at the same time.
So you're saying we got a leak?
I'm saying not so much a leak as it is like, think of it like this. When you log in, say you know what GTA is, Grand Theft Auto. Let's say you log into Grand Theft Auto and you get really involved and you're running missions and you're doing your thing. And you're watching the clock in the game, and you see the day becomes night every few minutes, and night becomes day every few minutes, and you got to wait till the next day to do this other mission. Think of the physical body that we inhabit is the character in the game. It perceives time based on, for him it was a day, for us it was 10 minutes, because we're outside of his time. Our spirit being, or our energetic matrix exists outside of our time. So therefore, for us, it's a day, and then a day, and then a day. For it's all the days, just laid out in front of it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's an important look at it. Like, we have to actually zoom out when we're looking. Zoom out when we're looking at ourselves in time. And I think also the disconnect is the fact that a lot of us feel disconnected from that higher self.
Yeah.
It's almost like, oh, well, yeah, we have a higher self, but it's not like me. But no.
It's you.
That's you. It's still you. And there is no, like, all right, here's me. And then, all right, boom, there's a barrier. And then there's higher self. Like, no, like, it's all you.
I'm going to tell you a secret. Separation is the illusion.
That is a Google fact.
Google fact.
That is a Google fact. Like, separation is an illusion. Separation is not a thing. So when you talk about, here and there's not really a boundary.
No. Well, think of it from this perspective, and this is what I love to talk to people about, is when you're thinking of, just let's stay within the time stream, okay? Just in our perception of time. So for us, we have mosquitoes. Mosquitoes live for approximately 2 weeks. Okay? So to a mosquito, we are immortal because their grandfather fed on us 2 generations ago. Okay. My grandfather told me about the human who lives in the giant castle and we feed upon them. They nourish us, every, what they perceive as a day, even though their lifespan is only 14 days. So for them, all of life is 14 days. For us, it's nearly 80 years. For other beings, like, some reptiles, it can be hundreds of years. Okay. And then if you think of it from that perspective, each being perceives the world from that perspective. So to the mosquito, every moment of every day is fast. It's constantly moving. It's constantly changing. So for us, it's 1 day out of, however many years. For it, it's an entire adolescence. You know what I mean? An entire, time of procreation and having children and building a family or whatever. It's for it, a week is half its life. It's now middle-aged. You know what I mean? So for us, we have to step away from our own perspective, because when you get down to the really small and subatomic, then you're looking at nanoseconds, where a particle can exist for a nanosecond, and that's its entire existence.
That's it.
And then you get to the celestial, where star systems take billions of years to form and then live for billions more before they die. So
as we know,
exactly,
as we can tell, as we measure,
right? All of this exists in our material world. So the time is a matter of perspective. If we were on a grander scale or larger scale, we would perceive time to move slower. If we were on a smaller scale, we would perceive time to move faster. So it's a matter of, just where you are on this spectrum, even within our own timeline.
Yeah, and when it comes to like timelines, I always say, like, that's why I was kind of bringing up the idea of what exactly is moving through this time space, right? What are we talking about? And so if we're talking about time travel, like, okay, I'm going to get in this DeLorean. I'm going to, set these settings, and then, all right, boom, I'm in my time machine. I'm going to go physically from one time to another.
I don't know that that's possible.
That now you're kind of questioning, because physicality, you're talking about collapsed particles, right?
Yeah.
Where this is boom, now you have existence in a way, in a point in time.
Well, to move in the timeline, okay, like that, you have to realize that while you're in your DeLorean getting ready to set the time machine to go, you are still bound by time. Your cells are still bound by time. For a physical being that is bound by time to move outside of time, it would stop.
Yeah, and you would also have to almost, in a way, be deconstructed.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but I know for sure, if you move a being that is bound by time, that requires cycles and movement of matter in a very particular way through space, and then you take it outside of that space, it would stop.
Yeah, it would be like walking through still life.
Right. Right. So think of it like this. If you take the GTA character analogy and you take the GTA character out of the game, what is it? It's just light. And so it dissipates. Because it has no physical structure outside of the GTA game.
And that's what I mean
gives
by
it form.
You'd be deconstructed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
And so now when you come, all right, let's go beyond that. When you are, okay, let's take into account how we think, right? If we are in a mode where we're thinking about the past, rehashing memories and whatnot, you are mentally traveling to the past. If you are maybe having premonitions or thinking about the future, or having anxiety about possible events that have yet to happen in your current reality.
That's okay.
I feel like that's like advanced to where not only are you traveling to the future, but you're traveling to multiple different timelines and futures that may not be on the path that you really want to manifest into the current timeline that you are on. If that makes any sense.
It does. I'm with you. Okay. But the way I see it is like this. That higher self, always present, because it's outside of time. So it's omnipresent. It's always there. So when you start to dwell upon a thing and you are thinking about the future, okay, and there are many potential futures that could exist for you based on the decisions that you make and the choices that you make. When you dwell upon a thing, you are sending a message to that higher self that this is the future I choose. And so then your future realigns itself to agree with that future that you chose.
And it's unconditional. What you want, what you ask for, is what you kind of get. Right.
It doesn't mean what what I meant was, it doesn't go by what you meant. It goes by what you do and what you say, what you intend. And if you are intending, a future that is unpleasant, you will get a future that is unpleasant. If you are intending a future that is beneficial to you, then you will get a future that is beneficial to you. Not just because you've chosen that, but also because once you choose it, the universe, through your higher self, will align to orient towards that target. You're basically saying, it's like, think of it like you're pulling back a bowstring, and you're pulling it back, and you're looking at your target, and then you're moving towards your target. Where are you trying to hit on your target? And then when you get to, when you decide, okay, this is where I'm going to let go. Okay, that's my target. Wherever you're aiming at, that's where that arrow is going, and that's where your intention goes. So then, and think of it like it's got a string attached, and now you are on course for whatever that target was that you oriented towards. And so in a matter of speaking, you are sending your intention into the future to create the reality that you intend, whether you want it or not.
Yeah. Boom. That's a light bulb moment for you if you didn't have one today. So where are you with timelines? Like, do you feel that we are constantly shifting timelines second by second?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you look at just basic quantum structure, the quantum field does not collapse until the observer interacts with it. We are constantly interacting with the quantum field and thus creating the physical reality around us. And ultimately, the way our timeline will unfold is based on our choices, our intentions, and so on and so forth. So we are constantly, based on the decision that we make, shifting from reality to reality. And based on your vibration and what you've decided you are, they will lead you towards the path that you've set out for yourself. Now, I'll tell you a story.
Story time.
This is a wild one. Okay, so my wife and I, we have a restaurant that we go to on a regular basis. Now, when we first moved into our house, we first moved in together. We weren't married. We were just together. We were looking for places to go that we could, we like to eat out, and we like getting like a diner place that we can go to. And we were looking for a place, and we couldn't find one near the house. But there was this potato place that was just made nothing but potatoes, that was right near our house. And we were like, how are you going to survive as a business when all you make is potato products? You got to have something else to go with it. And we were like, I'm sure they make something else. But we never saw any cars in the parking lot. It was just never really, the business didn't seem like it was doing well. So we were like, it's going to go out of business eventually. And so after about a year or so, we go driving by, this diner's there. We're like, oh, they changed it to a diner. Sweet. We're going to go to this diner and we're going to check it out. We go to the diner, we check it out, and we're like, the food is great. The people are pleasant. We're like, this is going to be our new spot. We love this place. It's going to be great. And so I was asking the guy, I was like, so what happened to the potato place that was here? And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, didn't this used to be a potato place? We used to see it, about a year ago, whatever. And he was like, we've been here for 30 years. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
that gives me Mandela effect vibes. That gives me butterfly effect. That gives me like that is very.
It freaked us both out because we had been talking about it for a while, and she was like, "There's no way that happened. There's no way that happened." I'm like, "Yeah, that just happened."
I've seen a lot of videos and stories and stuff of people like. Everything, like, they fall into these alternate realities. Some of them as big as like, I lived an entirely different life and then woke back up in this one. Like, there's some people like, I lived like 20, 15, you know, sometimes 30 years, you know, in a completely different life. And then they came back to this one and it was just like, yo, like, whoa, what happened? Or even something as small as, like you're saying, like, all right, well, there was just a restaurant, but then now there's a new one there, but they said they've been there for 30 years.
Yeah.
Since, like, how, Sway? How? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, that wasn't there. I know it wasn't there. I've been in this neighborhood. I've been here. I've driven past it. We've had conversations. We know it. Don't tell me that when Mandela had passed or what the Berenstein Bears did or that the Fruit of the Loom didn't have the cornucopia on it. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that that Sinbad wasn't in that movie. I know he was in the movie. I synced it with my own eyes. I was a kid, yeah, but I synced it.
Well, think of it like this. The problem we have with reality is that we think it's nice little solid structure. It's not. Think of it as a ball of energy, okay? And everything in that ball is vibrating at a similar frequency, so we interact with it like it's solid, even though it's not. If the universe is energy, and we have, every time you make a choice, you shift your energy and you coincide with another energy, another universe that is right on top of the one we're in, but there's multiple of them, millions of them, trillions of them, an infinite amount of different universes all piled up on top of each other, all vibrating at different frequencies. So, depending on which one you're aligned with will depend on which reality you fall into. So when you start to get into a stage like where you become enlightened, where you become aware of how to shift your vibration, you literally can shift timelines. You by changing your vibration, you shift into another timeline. And when you do that, reality changes because you're in a completely different reality than you were in a little while ago.
So it looks like when the scenes change in Inception.
Right. So like we have a cat. Okay, we call him Red after Raymond Reddington. And Red has this thing where he likes to sneak out of the windows. He has destroyed our screens and snuck out of every window in the house. So he goes outside, and then sometimes he comes back, and he looks the same, but that's not the same cat. He has a completely different personality. He acts very differently, and the other cats hate him. And then he leaves again and comes back, and they love him again. And he's acting like he was before. So we've taken to calling him Red 1 and Red 2, and you can tell when he switches because then the other cats react differently to him.
Where do you think this cat goes?
I do not know. I do not know. But all I know is this: when we're talking about timelines, there is no one timeline. There are multiple, and we are shifting between them based on the choices that we make and the intensity and way in which we are vibrating. And we can control that part, which is how you can actually intentionally shift to a reality that you want. If there's something that you want, shift to a reality where it exists and go get it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I just want to clarify for you guys out there, neither one of us are on drugs right now at this moment. Even though these thoughts and opinions may be our own.
No, that's the thing. I don't do drugs. People are like, you got to be, don't you ever try this? Nope. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't do any of that stuff because if you actually pay attention to what's going on in the world, it is wild as hell. It is fascinating.
Reality is its own drug.
Exactly.
So
that whole high on life thing is for real.
Yeah.
If you're paying attention.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I'm still stuck on the cat. I really wonder where the cat goes because if it's leaving and coming back differently, and even if it is two cats, right? Like, what is happening when that cat leaves? Is it going through?
Okay, understand though, my cat and my wife's cat were brother and sister, so they have matching patches. They look almost the same. So the cat that leaves and comes back is the same cat because it has the same matching patterns as his sister. But then sometimes that's his sister, and they're cuddly and they're friendly and they play and it's fun. And then sometimes she just hisses at him constantly because she's like, "That's not my brother."
That's trippy, man.
I know.
That would freak me out. I ain't gonna lie to you. That's kind of trippy. I don't know how I would take that because who is all right? Cat 2, all right, Red 2. What's going on? Where you come from?
Red 2 is not as friendly as Red 1.
Wow.
Red 2, when he comes in, he doesn't want to touch anybody. He's just, I'm coming to eat. I'm going to do my thing. Everybody hates me anyway. I don't want to be here. And then when he leaves, comes back, Red 1 comes back, and he's like, love on me. Give me some cuddles. I need some hugs and all that. And he wants to be close to everybody. It's wild.
I wonder if, I don't know, man. I'm almost wondering, is it something psychological or is it something mystical?
I don't know. But I know, to get back to the thing I absolutely know, that restaurant was not there. We drove past it. We pulled into the parking lot. We were looking at the potato place for a year solid. That place was not there. And then it was suddenly there and had been there for 30 years. That we know is a shift. We know that to be a shift.
That's weird.
Okay. I like the idea of time. I like the idea of multiple lifetimes within the same or within similar.
I love the idea of multiple lifetimes. But here,
and that's the episode we got to do too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a quick question on that, but go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So my quick question on that is where I feel like sometimes I get into a debate with myself with the multiple lifetime things. Is okay? Does it go in the fashion of which I feel like the answer to this question is obviously yes. On a grand scale, we are all coming from the same 0 point source of energy. So yes, that 0 point source of energy is being expanded out continuously or whatever, because time. So it is all lifetimes at once. But is there, what is it like on the in-between scale of, okay, multiple lifetimes that are tied to, like, okay, what are my other lifetimes? Is it all of them that is in relation to me currently, or is it just some of them specifically that are in relation to who I am now? Like, oh, okay, I've had a past life of this, or past life of that, or maybe an alternate dimension life in this way.
Well, think of it from this perspective. You are still you, no matter which game you're playing. Whether you're playing a tabletop game, role-playing D&D and making a character, or if you're in Half-Life, or if you're in an online Star Trek game, whatever it is, each character that you play is just a character that you play. You're still you, and you inject the ultimate part of you into each character, and that becomes that character reflects a part of who you actually are. So that higher self, that spiritual being that's outside of time, influences each lifetime because of what it learned in the previous or parallel lifetimes. So it's not so much that it's one thing, it's all of them. And since it's outside of time, they're all happening for that being at the same time. It's experiencing multiple lifetimes all at once.
So is it like a okay, can I compare this to sports?
Go for it.
I'm going to try this. This is going to be really terrible, but I'm doing this off the fly.
Go for it.
So if I compare this to sports, I'll compare this to basketball. If you are a point guard, and we're going to say that lifetimes are teams now instead. So you can say, hey, okay, I learned on the Chicago team that I played on how to play this way, how to play a game where I don't shoot the ball. Right. And now I'm on the Detroit team, and this is a game where I have to learn how to just where my only job as the point guard is to shoot, which is unorthodox, but that's my game now.
Right.
Or I also had another team that I was on before, or okay, say I played for the LA team, and on that team I had to do both.
Right.
And so it's okay, am I the player that the higher self? Is the higher self all of the players? Or is the higher self that one point guard that has just traveled from team to team to team? Okay. And then there's other higher selves that are there. Like every player has their own higher self because they're on their own team journey, but as a whole, they win the championship. And as a collective, they are a higher self team. Is that math?
It's similar, but what you're speaking of to me sounds more like you're talking about your soul family, your spirit family. These are spirits that travel with you through each lifetime, and they have different relationships each time you're reborn into a different reality or to a different lifetime. So like that team you joined, it's the same spirits, the same higher selves that are linked to you, but they show up in different forms when you form into a new life. One time they might be your brother, right. The next time it might be your son, the next time it might be your best friend, next time it might be your dog. You know what I mean?
Right.
It all depends.
So it's almost the thought of, it's like you have your spirit family, right? And then within that spirit family, each is their own individual life, right? But above that spirit family, is this spirit family actually one?
Maybe some of them may be,
and this is the in between I'm talking about. Once we get beyond that, if there's levels to this, like what are the levels in between that? Like, is there a levels to this, or is this just like TV static?
Think of one, okay? When there is one, that is the source.
Correct.
At the beginning, there is one, and that is the source. From that one comes two, okay? From that two comes everything else that exists. Depending on how far your energetic matrix is from the source will depend on, in my model anyway, it'll depend on how many lifetimes you go through before you sort of evolve. So the purpose in my model for the source sending out and dividing itself into all of these different beings, because we are all children of the divine, we are all part of the source. The purpose of that was to experience limitation. The source and the all has no limitation. So it experiences all time all at once. There is no limitation. There is no separation. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, the way I'm envisioning it is spider web. Yeah, where the center of that spider web is source, right? And how it spreads out in every freaking direction, but you also have connections to each. And then there is some spots of the spider web, it's thicker than others, and other spots is thinner. But the closer to the center you get,
the closer the connections
the closer the connections are, and maybe those clumps, like once you get to this, like maybe those clumps are bigger, so maybe it's not necessarily, that clump isn't necessarily a collection of souls or spirits, but that it's one,
right?
One of the, like, okay, so like maybe almost like a pyramid top down structure in a way that spreads out, but as it spreads, it multiplies.
Well, think of it from this perspective. Like that which I keep coming back to, as above, so below. So as the source or the all is, so will it reflect in the physical reality that we inhabit. So in our timeline, okay, we reflect that which is the source. We in our bodies are one, or so we perceive. But if you take apart, if you go closer and deeper into the body, you will find that there are trillions of cells that make up what we are, plus millions or billions of small organisms that live within us, that are not a part of us, but they live within us, or on our skin or in our eyes or whatever. So we are not one. We are not one. We are many, but we are still one. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, when we're talking about time, the source experiences all time, all at once. There is no separation. There is no day. There is no end of time. There is no beginning. There is no end. It is all time, and all different possibilities of time all at once. So for the source to experience a specific time, it must divide to become less, to become limited, to become more separate from its source, to become us, to experience limitation, to experience loss or lack or separation from the source, to experience emotion, to experience life as an individual it must separate from that which is connected to all things. So we are each that spark of the divine, experiencing life in each of the timelines in which we are a part. When we get to a certain energetic level, the different lifetimes elevates our vibration, and we go closer and closer and closer to the source until we return. And then that information, the lifetimes that we live, become a part of the source, and then it starts over again.
Welcome to Halftime. Give yourself and your mind a moment to rest. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose. And slow, deep breath out through the mouth. Focus only on your breath. Take another slow, deep breath in. And another slow, deep breath out. Feel better? Good. We want to take this moment to thank you for listening and watching this podcast. We hope you take something positive from it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment your light bulb moments. We also want to thank one of our biggest sponsors that make this podcast possible, Podcastic. Check them out at podcasticlife.com. Back to the wisdom. This gives me several different visuals. I want to give a couple. So I can try to translate this. One of the visuals I get is a slightly controversial, but I'm gonna say it anyway. It's like a peeping Tom effect.
What? Wait.
It's peeping Tom effect.
Peeping. Wait. How did you go? How did you go from?
Let me explain.
Bro, you gotta explain that one to me.
Let me explain.
You gotta explain that.
So, peeping Tom effect, because it's like, all right, I want to know what it's like to have this specific experience, life experience, correct? And I am going to go to a specific time and place to experience that, right? Within the universal construct of timelines, right? So you're going to go to the timeline store and you're going to pick out the life that you want to experience or live as this higher being. And you're all right, and then boom, you get your life goggles, right? Your two eyes, and hopefully both of them work. I would hope.
Okay, you're digging a hole here, bro.
I am. I understand. And so now, boom, you get to experience this life with an awareness. So now you have this awareness where you, as a cosmic being, are taking in this experience in life, and then it's kind of like, all right, this experience is done, I would like to experience something different, move over, and now you peep Tom into different existence.
Okay, I can't co-sign on the peeping Tom analogy on that one. I can't co-sign peeping Toms because that's creepy as hell. But
yeah, but it's just the idea of
well, think of it.
You're peeking in. It feels like as a cosmic being, you are peeking in and not necessarily.
It's too direct. That's too direct. Okay, because
Is it?
Well, think of it from this perspective. You're talking about something that a being that is beyond our ability to conceive because it exists in all times, in all space, everywhere. You're talking about something that is so energetically beyond us. It's the equivalent of our mitochondrial DNA attempting to explain what a human is. It has no concept. It doesn't even have the material in which to make a brain in which to conceive of the concept of a human being.
Fair.
So we're talking about something that is profoundly alien to us. Okay, so
but we are it,
right? And that's the part that we're connected to. That no matter where we are in which lifetime, our energy still returns to that source. Okay, and that source is outside of time. So therefore, no matter how many lifetimes we live, ultimately we keep returning to that source and keep returning to that source, so much so that like we are not the source. but we are a part of it. And so we experience things and then return to.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean by the terrible explanation of
the peeping Tom.
Of zooming in. It's like, all right, this is the experience. Going back to
the window while you got your drawers on.
Yeah, you know, put your space drawers back on. All right, please put your space drawers back. Don't be peeping into the universe with your space drawers off, guys. Please keep your space drawers.
Okay, hold up. We got to make some merchandise with some space drawers. just because it's the cosmic underwear.
This might go off the rails, guys. Listen, I am not.
He's not on drugs.
I'm not on D-Rugs. And I am also not condoning being a peeping Tom.
No, please don't peep. It's creepy as hell.
That is very not nasty. In any timeline. I don't do that. Don't do that.
That's nasty.
It's just don't do that. I'm not gonna say just don't. Okay. All right. It's not okay.
So we gotta do a deep dive before we go. We gotta do a deep. So now, practical magic. How does this affect our daily lives? What's the point of knowing any of this stuff? Okay.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Should we forget about time?
No. Here's the thing, and this is where it has its benefits. I think time as a construct is a gift, okay, because it reminds us of one very important thing. It runs out. We are limited in our lifespan. We are limited in our time. And the important part is to understand that. And if you realize that and make it a part of your everyday life, knowing I'm going to die one day, this is limited. I don't have forever. It makes every single moment of every day precious, because eventually you're not going to have one, and you don't know what comes next yet.
Or do you?
You can believe what you want, but
there you go.
The knowledge of that has been hidden from us in order for us to have a true and genuine experience. If you know, again, if you're like the y'all, you know everything that's going to happen. What's the point of anything?
You see, this is why I say that life is a bunless burger, because
wait. Life is a bunless burger. You gotta explain that, bro.
Because
you gotta explain that.
Listen, all the meat and stuff, that's your toppings. That's a good thing in life. You got the meat. That's your sustenance, right? But then you have to close it off with the buns, right? You got the top bun and you got your bottom bun. You got your beginning and your end, right? You got your beginning and your end. That's your burger.
Okay.
Right? But we apparently don't necessarily remember our own personal beginning. We have people who be like, yeah, your birth was like this, but we don't remember our birth. We don't. I want to be careful with how I word this.
Exactly.
I want to be very, very careful with how I word this. We are not collectively privy to. We are not purposely collectively privy to the pre-birth information as to, and at least it's not one that's totally discussed as to where was I before I became aware.
Okay.
Where like our it's almost kind of like we black out on the pre-awareness and also the post-awareness of after what we consider death, as some people see it as an end, and then there's a lot of fable for that.
Okay, we have got to do a show on NDEs, near-death experiences, because I can tell you
a lot of those have said the same. There's a lot of common similarities with those NDE stories, and it's
wild. I've seen some. I told you a story about the one with the kid where he remembered him dying as a pilot. He remembered his previous life dying as a pilot in World War II.
So
and that's what I mean is like the reason why I believe that we choose not to remember our previous lives is because it taints the current life. He spent the first 5-6 years, almost 8 years of his life tormented by his own death, and that changed who he was. So in order for them to actually get over it, his parents had to actually have a funeral for his previous life.
Yeah, and that's something that sticks out because it's not it's not a common conversation.
No.
And which I think it should be. Why it's not is beyond me.
Because it's terrifying to people to understand that there's more than what we've been told or taught.
That's exciting.
For you, for me, I find it fascinating. For most people, when you start to have these conversations about, reincarnation or previous lives or parallel lives, you begin to erode the foundations of what we believe this timeline is, that it's finite. It has a beginning and it has an end, and you have to do everything right while you're here, or else you don't.
Yeah. And so it's interesting, even with that, and even when it comes to like the boy remembering one of his past lives, right? Because I feel like our past, parallel, future lives all play into whatever we're doing in this current moment.
Yeah, subconsciously, I think so. I agree.
Yeah, and so, but I personally have had moments where I have, whether it was a vision, dream, whatever you want to call it, of things that happened maybe in the past, right? And then I'm like, oh, okay, that was an interesting dream or whatever, right? And then later I see or I read something about something that happened in the past. I'm like, yo, how is it that I'm able to remember something that I was never present for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how is it that I have experienced that in a roundabout way?
Yeah.
Even if it was a short 10-second experience. You know what I mean? How was that? That to me is when it becomes very trippy.
Well, and that's the point, is when you start doing any of this internal work that we always discuss, whether you're doing meditation or you're doing craft work. My apologies. Whether you're doing meditation or any sort of craft work where you're doing spiritual, tuning, where you're trying to get in touch with that higher self, the more you get in touch with that higher self, the more you have access to its knowledge, to that higher self's knowledge, which is still you. We keep telling you it's still you. So that you, or version of you, that essence of you, still has all of the knowledge from the previous lives that it's lived and the future lives that it's going to live. And so when you become more attuned with that being, you get access to some of that information. So you'll have flashes like that where you see places that you'll know where something is, even though you've never been there before. You'll recognize people that you've never actually met before, things like that.
And sometimes even parallel or alternate realities.
Right. So,
which has also been fast, because it's like, man, all right, that was a different type of reality. I wonder what else is there like that. But
it gets deep and it gets trippy, and it's scary for most people to realize that time isn't what we think it is. It's what we experience is our own perception of time. We've all been in a situation where we've had a moment where things just seem to stretch on forever and move in slow motion. And, you have that moment where you're like, what is this? And it's just a profound feeling. And it may not last long, but it takes you out of this, the standard perception of time where things are moving, at a certain clip. So I think that time is a gift for us, so that we understand limitation, which is the point, and we understand the urgency of experiencing rather than waiting.
Yeah, and also I want to say one of our things with time is that one thing I noticed is that we don't value our time as much as we should, that we have. If it's a gift, we don't value it. As a whole, I don't think that we value time as much. I think that we, especially when it comes to work, we now trade our time for money.
We sell it
cheap. Yeah. Cheap. Yeah. Like, how much is, I think if the question was rephrased as to not how much do you want to make, is this okay for to make an hour, right? Or whatever. What if it was, well, how much is your time worth?
Yeah. How much is your life?
How much is your life worth? How much? So we would like you to come and work for us. We would only require about 60% of your life.
Yeah.
How much
is that worth?
How much is that worth? How much can we give you? How much would you take for 60% of your life to spend with us?
Doing stuff you don't want to do.
Now, what I'm going to be doing? No, you're.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it. It's cool. You're not going to love it. I mean, there's going to be a lot of days where you actually really, really dislike it because you don't really like it. But yeah, it's only 60% of your life, so it's fine, right? It's just time.
Yeah, I'm going to need you to come in on Saturday.
Yeah, give us your Saturdays as well. Mandatory. You kind of have to be. Well, why do I get? Because those are the rules. You work for us now.
Well, and that's the thing is we forget choice. Choice isn't a simple thing. Choice literally chooses which reality you live in and spend your time in. So it's very important that we realize that our lives are limited for a purpose. We're not supposed to live forever. We shouldn't want to live forever because this is just the time in which we are supposed to learn certain lessons and have certain experiences. And then we're supposed to move on to the next thing. So we have to, if we understand that our time is limited, it changes the perspective. If you know you have all day to do something, you'll wait till the last minute to do it. If you know you got 15 minutes to get this thing done, there's some urgency.
Yeah, fire on the tail.
Exactly. And that to me makes, the construct of time one of our most valuable gifts, to show us that, change is inevitable, that endings do happen. Even if they're not really an ending, they're more of a change. Because in my cycle, there is no end. There is birth, life, death, and rebirth. And there's no
end.
Separation.
It's a circle.
Exactly.
And so it's like you say, it's a cycle. It's just change. It's chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? In chemistry, you kind of have the law of conservation of mass. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed.
It just changes shape.
It just changes shape. That's it. It's just going from one form to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Death is not the end, and I think that's such a harsh word.
Yeah. What's scary? Because we don't know.
It's a harsh word, but we know it's just a transition, but we have certain belief systems and thoughts that kind of block us from that. Like we block ourselves.
Well, in this timeline, we have a significant amount of individuals who like to control, to use that C word, and they like to...
that one makes me itch. It makes my kneecaps itch a little bit.
It makes my kneecaps itch.
Yeah, when last time your kneecap itched?
Yeah, I know, man. You're making my kneecap itch right now. I'm just saying. But that's the whole point is when if people can control your time, they can control your life. If they can control your life, they can control you. And people have been conditioned into believing that time, that we forget about the end, that you have your whole life ahead of you. No, you don't. You have right now, because the next 15 minutes you can get hit by a bus, or you could have a coronary, you can have an aneurysm. One of my best friends, one of my business partner back in the day, he went home, went to sleep, had an aneurysm, and died. He didn't know he was going to die. He was 39 years old. I mean, you don't see that type of stuff coming. And if you live with the understanding that this life is limited, your amount of time inside of this timeline is limited, it changes your perspective on things. But at the same time, understanding that there is no end, that there is other timelines out there, that there is another lifetime out there potentially for you, then it makes things a lot more exciting, less, morbid and it's going to end and be afraid, and more, the world is freaking fantastic and, creative. And I wonder what this lifetime is here to teach me.
That's the exciting part for me is like, all right, what's next on this adventure? It's like watching a manga, like watching Dragon Ball Z. Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Man, that was so sad.
Peace.
That was sad, man. That's sad. I saw I saw somebody post something about how Dragon Ball Z, like the effect it had on Dragon Ball Z was so good in like the hood that when they say you watch anime, Dragon Ball Z didn't count.
No,
It didn't count. It's like, no, that don't count. Everybody watches
exactly.
Dragon Ball Z is there. Like it's gotta be.
It's part of so many different cultures.
Yeah, if you didn't watch Dragon Ball Z, we don't. Okay, we gonna question you, but we don't count that as watching anime. Like no, like that's just life. We have to watch Dragon Ball Z. That's just a part of it. That
was the GOAT, man. That was the GOAT.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Absolutely. So okay, how do we close this out?
I don't know, man. It's got to be time related, right? Of course.
That's our topic.
Okay.
What's the practical? This? How do we help people with this?
How about this? I'm gonna see where this leads me. I'm gonna start here and see where this leads me, because I have had a practice of. I have this watch on my wrist currently. Mm-hmm. I don't know if y'all can see.
You see it.
I have a watch on my watch currently, and it's my first automatic watch, which means that it runs off of kinetic energy. Mm-hmm. I move, it moves.
Okay.
I have not set the watch in a while. I was going to say a long time. Because I can't remember the exact day that I stopped setting the watch. And the reason I stopped setting the watch was as a reminder to myself that the only time is now. No matter what this watch says, no matter what the made up time is that we've decided it to be, it's still now. The moment I look at the watch, it's now. When I look at it later, it's going to be now. When I looked at it before, it was now. It's still probably right 2 times a day.
Exactly.
Who knows? But it's what would you do if you had access to all of your time? If you said, hey, we're going to give you a package. Instead of giving you like, hey, here's $1 million. Hey, here is a boatload of time. All the time that you had given that have been wasted, and all the time that you will have. What would you do with it? How would you savor it? How would you spend it?
That's the question. If you ever look at my Facebook page, it's got a little phrase that I sort of live by. He who seeks shall find. He who finds shall know. He who knows shall seek. No matter how much time you have, there's too much to know for any given lifetime, no matter how long you live. So there's always something new to discover. There's always something new to know, always something to explore and experience, and a new person or new version of you to become. So for me, I would take the time, of course. Screw the money. The money's great, but it can come and go. The time would give me more time to gather more knowledge, more experiences, and really sort of bite this life with just eat it with 2 hands, just as much as you can take in. That gives me the thought of how they always give all right, if you could go to an island and you can take only 3 things, what would you take? Right? If you could only go to now. Mm-hmm. You only had now, right? You could bring anything you wanted to now. What would you bring? And that can be both physical or metaphysical. You could bring clothes. You can bring knowledge.
You can bring happiness. You could bring. What would you bring joy to your now?
My joy. I've got joy. I'm not always happy, but I always have joy, because I've nearly been killed so many times. The gift of nearly being killed so many times gives you the appreciation and the joy of being alive. So I have my joy. I would bring knowledge, because there's so much more. Like people tell me all the time I talk too much. Like you do talk all the time. I'm like, I know. Because all of this information I have in my head, the downloads of information I've been getting,
get that stuff out, man.
I want to. It's not so much get it out. I want to share it. I want everybody to know this stuff. I want everybody to experience what it's like to have a moment of awe. I want everybody to experience actually being in spiritual contact with your higher self. Being able to connect with that version of you that is outside of time and experience life in truly supernatural ways.
Yeah, but for some people, that's a crown cracker.
It is. It's
a crown cracker for some people.
But I wish that for everybody, because here's the thing. My mission and the entire purpose of my being is to evolve humanity. And the reason why we're doing the show, the reason why I do the movies that I do, the reason why I write what I write is entirely because I want to contribute to the evolution of the human species so that we become more evolved and with the limited time that I have, on point for the show, I know that I only have a certain amount of time to contribute this information that I've gathered, whether it's coming from a previous life or a future life or a parallel life or whatever. That information can be passed on to others and therefore seed the collective consciousness with new information, which will ultimately result beyond my lifetime in the evolution of the entire species of mankind. That's my goal. That's my mission for being here. So if you can have that experience, in the now, okay, where you are gifted with that knowledge, you are downloaded and you download some information that is from your higher self, then you can contribute things into this timeline that you couldn't otherwise.
More Google facts.
Lack of sleep does me good, apparently.
Hey, look. So we're going to get ready to get up out of here. Are those your parting words?
I don't know. Think of your time in this lifetime as your bank account. Every moment that you are alive, you are spending. What do you want to spend your life on?
Ooh.
Every day, every moment.
Ooh, your life wallet.
Exactly.
Don't drop that.
You don't know how much is in your account. You don't know how much is in it, but you got to spend it. Either way, you're either going to spend it wasting it on nothing, or you're going to spend it doing something that enriches you, fulfills you, spreads love, or makes you feel more alive.
Yeah. Cool. My parting words would be, since we are coming up on time, I would say I would do a little bit of an echo. And as far as I feel like part of my mission here is to, as the light bulb of higher thought, bring those light bulb moments to people so that they too can find their higher thoughts.
I dig that.
Without the use of D-rugs.
No D-rugs.
No D-rugs.
I'm not knocking people. I'm just saying.
They have their uses.
Yeah.
They have their uses. I'm not saying that. Come on, people.
Use them. Don't let them use you.
Thank you. But yes. So with that being said, check in on your time. And we will check you out next time. Maybe. Past, present, future, whenever that is.
Oh, wait. Don't forget, if you are watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends. Spread the words. Comment down below. Make sure that you interact with us. We want your questions. We want your queries. If you got something to say, if you got something you want us to know, definitely let us know. If you're listening to this on the podcast, share it with your friends. We want to talk to more people. We want to get more people involved.
Yes, indeed. So, that being said, think higher and follow the light bulbs. Peace.
Peace.